Good morning, it's Kayak Cliff. It's July 4th, 2023. Happy Independence Day. Today I wanted to get out and do a paddle that I've done this many times, but I've never done a video on it. We're going to do a little urban paddling in Dallas, Texas. And what I mean by urban paddling is White Rock Lake is like the in-town Dallas lake. Lots of mansions around it, lots of things going on here. A ton of history I'm going to talk about, kind of educate you guys a little bit. But White Rock Lake is not a real big lake. It's like 1,260 acres. Not real big, easy paddle, but a lot of things to look at and do when you're paddling out on this lake. And I'm going to take you all through that. So come on out with me. Let's go see White Rock Lake. Hey, I'm here with Johnny with Dallas Paddle, and we're getting ready to go out on White Rock Lake. But a lot of you guys want to know, where do we rent kayaks when we go to White Rock Lake in Dallas? So Johnny's the guy here.
Guys, so we're at 389 East Lawther Drive at White Rock Lake. You can find us 7 days a week for all your paddleboard and kayak needs. We're part of Dallas United Crew, so we are part of a nonprofit, so what we make will go back into improvements to the lake, as well as scholarships for our rowing programs next door.
Oh, that's awesome. And yeah, when I'm out there, I'm going to be talking about a lot about the history of the lake, and there's been a lot of ecological things over the last century out at this lake here, so it's really interesting. And Johnny's got some great boats here too. He's got the Feel Free tandem kayaks, and I think singles as well.
We've got plenty of singles, tandems, paddleboards, and they're all brand new.
Yeah, and Feel Free is an awesome brand, so check them out. So we just left the ramp, and I put in at a really nice kayak launch out off East Lawther Drive, which encircles White Rock Lake. I think it pretty much encircles. But I put in at the Dallas, right next to the Dallas Boat Club, and boy, that rental company is awesome. The really great boats there as well. But it's a little, about a 10 to 12 mile an hour headwind. Well, that's what the weather says, but it feels more like about 12 to 13 mile an hour headwind. So there's a little bit of waves. So I'm gonna paddle into the wind first, get the hard part done. And today I'm paddling the Pakayak Bluefin 142. And if you know me, you know that I am finished with rigid hull one-piece kayaks that are difficult to transport and they're difficult to store. Pakayak is what I'm paddling today. And Pakayak, it's 6 sections of rotomolded touring pleasure that just snap together on the shoreline. You just clamp it together on the shoreline, and within 5 minutes you're set up and you're ready to go. But then when you're done, it goes back into a bag, and it's only about 3.5 feet tall, so you can store it anywhere. You can check it on an airplane. I'm going to put in the description box my review of the Pakayak. It is a phenomenal touring kayak, and you sacrifice nothing with the Pakayak. It handles like a one-piece rigid hull touring kayak. It's actually more rigid because of all the sections that go together that have return flanges all the way around, which structurally makes it stronger. So anyway, enough about the Pakayak. Check it out on my review in the description box, and let's go see this really cool lake. One thing you'll immediately notice when you get out to White Rock Lake is there's no motorboats. Motorboats are not allowed. Maybe they are up to like a 4 or 5 horsepower engine. I'm not positive on that. Certainly electric motors are okay. But it's mainly a sailing lake. And there's people that fish in John boats with the little electric motors. But just a very peaceful lake to visit and paddle around, and that's what we're doing today. White Rock Lake, it is, like I said before, it's 1,260 acres, I think. And so not real big, but big enough to get out and enjoy. Little marinas with sailboats. I see some sailboats out here right now. I bet today, later in the day, it'll get really busy. That's a cool ladder up there. Boy, I want to jump off of that. I wonder how deep it is here. The whole lake is only, the deepest point is 18 feet, so maybe it's right there, and maybe that's for jumping off of, I don't know. Back in the late 1830s, the first family to settle here were the Daniels. And the Daniels kind of cultivated this area, this valley, with multiple pieces of farm property down in and around where we call White Rock Lake now. And that was the late 1830s. And one of the sons of the Daniels went to fight in the Civil War. And he befriended, during his fighting in the Civil War, he befriended some boy by the last name of Cox. And after the Civil War, that son came with his family, the Cox family. They came back with Daniel, the Daniels' son, to this area. And they took up a bunch of property here. And the Daniels and the Coxes really farmed this area in the mid to late 1800s. And from what I can tell, they were, you know, good partners, good friends. So much so that they developed and built a Daniels Cox family cemetery here. And it is still here from what I hear, from what I've seen on the, you know, read on the internet and everything. I need to check it out sometime. But that's kind of neat that two people that fought in the Civil War, befriended each other, came back and their families became friends, and they developed this area. Definitely not a Hatfield and McCoy type situation that you've heard with other areas. Now, as all growing cities grow, they need water. And you know, creeks and rivers are where cities typically develop because they can get some water. There's a water source. Well, White Rock Creek was a good water source, so in 1911 they dammed up and created what we now call White Rock Lake. And it was just a very popular destination. Homes and residential did not really start booming here until the 30s. So, you know, late 20s, 30s, homes started popping up around White Rock Lake. Up ahead of us, there's a point called Winfrey Point, and the Civil Conservation Corps built like 8 different barracks to house the Civil Conservation Corps workers during the Depression. And they did a lot of modifications to this lake. They built buildings, they improved the infrastructure, and they really created it to be a lake that irrigated and provided a fresh water source to the Dallas area. Now along comes World War II, and in World War II, when we jumped into the war, those 8 barracks that the Civil Conservation Corps used, they became an induction point for Dallas residents that were volunteering for the Army, and it's where they were inducted into the Army, and probably did some exercises out there as well. But that was part of this lake and those barracks that are out on Winfrey Point. I don't think the barracks are there anymore. Now, come 1943, as we started to win in the European command, you know, we brought back German prisoners of war. And at one point, there were as much as 403 German prisoners of war in those Civil Conservation Corps turned Army, now turned prisoner of war camps. So imagine that. There were, on this lake, there were 403 German prisoners of war in 1943. And that was probably the high point of most of the prisoners. Because a lot of prisoners of war, they were settled all throughout the United States. I remember reading there's a ton of them in Alabama that went there. As you can imagine, swimming was popular along this lake. There were, I think there were multiple beach locations where residents could go all throughout those early years, the 10s, 20s, 30s, 40s, to go swimming. But it was a massive drought that hit the Dallas-Fort Worth area in 1952. And that drought saw the last swimmers in the lake. And I guess swimming back then was dirty. because they closed swimming back during that time for good even until now. There's nowhere to really swim here unless I flip this kayak over. But they closed swimming on this lake indefinitely to protect the water source for the Dallas community. So a lot of peeing in the pool, I guess, you know, occurred here back then. I don't know. I've never been that dirty when I've been swimming. But at any rate, swimming ceased to exist here in the lake come 1952 during that massive drought. I would imagine it was probably because the shores, if it was a big enough drought, the shores probably receded quite a bit. And, you know, maybe the lake shrunk from 1,250 acres to 500 acres. And then you had just that concentrated water, and they just didn't want things in that water or stuff in that water that would contaminate it for those that are drinking it. Because I don't know that they really purified water back then like we do today. I'm sure they didn't. Now, one of the best known destinations on White Rock Lake is the Dallas Arboretum. And the Dallas Arboretum, it's on the shores, it's on the eastern shore of White Rock Lake. And we're getting down to that area now. It's more down closer to the dam and the spillway on the eastern shore. But Dallas Arboretum borders White Rock Lake. And it's just a beautiful place to go to during the springtime, during the fall, like even the summer too, to see the flowers. And just a beautiful, it's probably one of the most popular ones in the country. But as far as kayaking, where the Dallas Arboretum comes in for paddlers is on Thursday nights from April to June. And I'm not sure of the specific dates, but it's mainly April, May, June, those 3 months. Every Thursday night, there's concerts outdoor concerts in the Dallas Arboretum. And the concert stage is pretty close to the water. So what paddlers do, and it's on my bucket list, I've never done it, but paddlers will launch and there will be a bunch of kayaks out in the water listening to the music. And it could be the symphony, it could be pop, it could be rock, it could be reggae, it could be country. Every week it's a different thing. So look up Dallas Arboretum concert series and check out what the dates are. I know they have it from April to June. Yeah, maybe they have it. When I looked it up, that's all there was, but maybe there's a schedule for the fall as well. I don't know. But that's pretty cool to be able to go out in your kayak and sit up and get some free seats, because I think it's like $25 to $30 a person to pay to go inside. And if you can sit there and hear it as well in the kayak and have the enjoyment of a kayak, that's pretty cool. You know, while it's nice getting out in remote rural areas, remote lakes with untouched land and the beauties of nature, it's oftentimes nice to get to these urban paddling sites. I mean, just seeing all the bikers passing me on the bike trails that go around the lake, and just seeing all the green, you know, ducks and wildlife and greenery and trees in bloom and flowers in bloom. It's really pretty. You know, we're not really in a drought here yet. We're not in the June, July, and August months of the summer. Well, we're at the beginning of July, but we haven't really had a major drought yet. So everything's still green. So it's beautiful out here. You know, seems like most cities have some type of urban paddling experience. Like City of Austin, I've taken you down there on Lady Bird Lake, downtown Austin, a big one. You know, Houston has Buffalo Bayou. I hear that's a little more swampy and everything, but people down there that, you know, live there love it. I need to try it out sometime. Well, we're down at the southern end. It's considerably more calm because of the dam and the trees blocking the wind. But we're going to head across the lake now and go up the western shore and explore that area. Lots of big houses, and I'll take pictures of them for you. And looking back up north, that's the end that we came from. So I'd guess it's probably a couple mile paddle, you know. I don't know, might be a 3 mile paddle. I use paddle logger to log my paddles, but I didn't start it until after about a mile into the trip. So I'll probably be able to extrapolate what this whole paddle was by adding a mile and a half to it. Now, as we're paddling along the spillway, you know, this dam that makes the lake, this water flows out of this lake into the Trinity River. And the Trinity River is the main river that goes through Dallas. And that flows down through multiple reservoirs on its way down to the Gulf of Mexico, east of Houston, in near Beaumont area. Not exactly Beaumont, but down near that area is where it flows into the Gulf of Mexico. So like all streams and all water networks in the United States, they all flow to the ocean or the Gulf. And of course, the water from the Trinity that flows through Dallas, Dallas is part of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, which here in 2023 is now the 4th largest metro area in the country. It's about 7.8 million people. So, you know, a lot of people coming to Texas from California and New York and Chicago, Illinois. A lot of people coming to Texas and Florida. But, you know, as a Texan here, I say, howdy. Thank you for coming down here. We open our arms to all of you Californians or anybody that's moving down here. And, you know, just as a public service thing, I wanted to put up on the screen a map of Texas with all the key cities that are awesome to live in Texas. You want to check out this map. Use this when you're coming down here to help find where the best place to live is. You're welcome. I always like to do these public service announcements. Now, since we talked about some history here, some other cool history, whenever you can find it, is the folklore here. And what this pertains to is ghosts. Evidently, White Rock Lake is haunted. There's a lady, they say in her 20s, that reportedly drowned in a boating accident out here on the lake. And at night, people often see a lady walking out of the lake in a 1930s evening dress, all wet. And she'll approach people and ask to be taken home to her home on Gaston Road or Gaston Avenue. And evidently some people have put her in their car and taken her home, but en route she just disappears. And but then when they look at the seat where she was sitting, it's all wet with water. That's that's creepy. When I read it first online, I was researching this lake, and kind of gave me the goosebumps. Can you imagine picking up somebody that was in a wet evening dress and taking that person home, and they disappear, and then your seats in your car are wet? Anyway, there's a country song that debuted and hit the country charts and did very well in 1965 called "Taking Mary Home." And I'm not sure of the original artist, but there's been 6 or 7 country artists through the years that have sung that song, "Taking Mary Home." And Ricky Skaggs was the most prominent one that I had heard of. But evidently it was a really popular song, and it was about the Lady of the Lake, of the Lady of White Rock Lake. So, "Taking Mary Home." So I assume her name was Mary if the song is "Taking Mary Home." There's also a microbrewery here, a real popular microbrewery called Lakewood Brewing Company. And they have a beer there, La Dame, D-A-M-E, La Dame du Lac, the Lady of the Lake. So kind of a French name, La Dame du Lac. So that was, that's a beer that they have in honor of the Lady of the Lake. So if you're driving on East Lawther Avenue, which is the eastern side of the lake at night, and a lady in a wet evening dress approaches you, just keep going, because it's a ghost. And kind of, I love researching that kind of stuff, and it's really interesting. Now, one thing that's pretty cool, being in Dallas, everything's ostentatious and big, and everything's big in Texas. Well, this is Mount Vernon behind us. And wait a minute, isn't Mount Vernon in Washington, outside of Washington, D.C.? That's where the first president lived, George Washington and Martha Washington. That was, Mount Vernon was George Washington's estate outside of D.C. and in Virginia, and I think in Virginia. But there's a replica of Mount Vernon here on White Rock Lake, and the big gate that you go into to get into it is called Mount Vernon. Now, it's a private residence. I don't know who lives there, but I think it's a direct scale-to-scale replica of George Washington's Mount Vernon. And it's pretty cool being here on the 4th of July and seeing the first president of the United States house, or a replica of his house, here on White Rock Lake in Dallas. A lot of big houses out here on the Western Shore. Over the years, they've torn down a lot and built some really unbelievable estates. But paddling White Rock is a nice architectural tour as well. Boy, look at that one. Looks like somebody's building their forever home there on the lake. My forever home is the home that we built here in the Dallas Metroplex back in 1993, shortly after we moved here. And would you believe back then that home was $102,999? Boy, has it gone up. All these people coming to Texas. One of the things I really like about this kayak, this Pakayak, is the cockpit that you get into. It's an oversized cockpit, and it makes getting into extremely easy. Other touring kayaks I've had in the past, it's almost like you had to Vaseline up your legs just to slide in there, and getting in and out of this is super easy. It's also nice because, you know, after you've been paddling for a while, you want to change your leg position. And this isn't the most efficient way to paddle, but if you want to just put your knees up for a little bit, you can do that. And it's not so big of a cockpit opening that you can't put a skirt on it. The skirt fits perfectly if you're in rough conditions and you need to have a skirt on. But oh, it's nice to bring your legs up and just relax for a minute. Look at that black lab going out there. Boom, he got it. That white dog over there, he's looking at me. He doesn't know what to make of me. He's starting to bark a little bit. So if you're wondering where the dog park is, that's on the northwestern part of the lake, right where the bridge crosses over White Rock Creek. So if you got a dog, check that out. It's pretty cool. I mean, what better thing for a dog to do on a hot summer day than to go hop inside a lake that's cordoned off so the dog can't swim too far. It's just safe. It's a doggy swimming pool. Now, I wonder if they contaminate the water supply. I mean, that's something to think about. If I'm not mistaken, I think this is the Mockingbird Lane bridge that goes over the lake, or goes over the White Rock Creek. Ah, a little shade. Nice little respite. A lot of kayaking activity up this creek. I think other people had the same idea. I really appreciate you coming with me on this kayaking adventure, this urban kayaking adventure on White Rock Lake. And if you want to learn more about this Pakayak, it's an amazing kayak. Check out my review. The link is in the description box. And they're one of my affiliates. And if you like what you see and you watch the review and you want to get a Pakayak, click on my affiliate link. The affiliate link gets me just a little bit back to help support my channel, and I appreciate it. It doesn't cost you a dime extra. It's just the great good people at Pakayak give me a little bit back to support everything that we do in the channel. Filming these trips, going around and buying all the equipment that we need to buy, it really helps, and I appreciate your support. At any rate, if you go to kayakcliff.com, all of the products that I use and love and fully endorse are on my kayakcliff.com website. And I'll put the link there as well. So, you know, check it out. But when you paddle White Rock Lake, this on White Rock Creek is great to paddle on. And I'm gonna just time warp the rest of this trip on White Rock Creek, going all the way back up to to where we launched originally, the put-in point. So, thanks for watching. God's blessings to you and your families. Check me out at kayakcliff.com. Kayak Cliff out.